listening to the Confidence Alchemist radio show with your host, the Confidence Alchemist himself, Keith Blakemore Noble. To find out more, visit theconfidencealchemist.com. But not before you've listened to this episode of the Confidence Alchemist radio show.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Confidence Alchemist radio show. Now, whether you're listening to us on radio, watching us on YouTube, catching up on podcasts, wherever you are, a massive welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, this episode, we're talking about leadership confidence. Now, before you switch off, just give me a few moments, because I strongly believe every single one of us is a leader. We are all leaders, and I'll come on to explain that in just a moment. And once you get that, you'll realise that all of this stuff is applicable no matter what level you're at. So just hold that thought for a moment, that we are all leaders. And before we get into that, I just wanted to explain where the kernel of the idea for this episode came from. I was speaking with a listener, having a conversation with a listener a few days ago. And they were talking about the kind of trials and tribulations that they're facing as a manager in a role at work. And we got talking about the sorts of things that many people who are leaders in different roles often have these things which sap our confidence. We kind of feel a lack of confidence in our own abilities, or we're maybe constantly fearful that we've done something wrong, or even worrying about what people are going to be saying about us. Any of this ringing true for you at all? I'm guessing it probably is, because it does for a lot of people, particularly in leadership roles. And remember, as I said, and I'll explain in a moment, we're all leaders. Whatever we're doing, we are all leaders at some level. And they were asking some simple tasks or tips that you can use to build up your confidence in these areas. And I was thinking, you know what? That would make for a wonderful episode. So here we are. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Leadership Confidence with me, your host, the Confidence Alchemist. And we're going to be exploring how we can overcome these things in this episode. Now, I did mention that we're all leaders, right? And I promised I would explain that. So here goes. Generally, when we think of leaders and leadership, we're thinking of people in companies, like the manager of a group, or the CEO, the leader of the whole organisation, the leader of the multi-billion-dollar, multinational global conglomerate. Now, yes, they are absolutely a leader. Or it might be the person who's team leader, leading a group or a team of maybe half a dozen people who are tasked with a particular set of responsibilities. Again, that is a leader. However, there's a lot more to being a leader than just being a leader or manager in a work capacity. As I say, we are all leaders. For some people, it may be in more of a community-based thing. For example, you might be leader of a scout troop, or leader of a Girl Guide pack, or you might be leading the boys' brigade, or you might be leading the local soccer team, football team, kids team, for example, or even the adults team. You might be helping to lead a social club. Or, I've got some friends who run a they do that. They run a social club. They got the what's the word I'm looking for? They got the building there, the clubhouse, the bar, the whole lot. Somebody there has to lead it. Somebody is the leader who has to run it all. All those are leadership roles. Even if you're not in any of those, there's still plenty of other areas you might be a leader. For example, if you are a parent or you have a family, you could well be leading that family, either always or even some of the time, leading that family. You are a leader in those situations. You might be seen as kind of the leader of the group in a social situation, either all the time or in a particular situation. And even if none of those count for you as being a leader, even if you don't feel you fit into any of those, there is still one area in your life in which you are the leader, or rather you should be the leader. What am I talking about? Your life. We are all leaders of our own lives. Because let me ask you this. If you don't believe that you are the leader of your life, who is the leader of your life? Who is the leader of your life? And whose best interest do they have at heart? Because I'll tell you one thing, it ain't your best interests. If somebody else is leading your life, they are doing it from a perspective of their best interests. They've got their best interests at heart, not yours. Generally, those two might coincide. Generally, it's going to be beneficial. But if there ever comes a conflict, and there will, if there ever comes conflict between doing something which in their best interests or doing it in your best interests, they're going to pick the one that's in their best interests. Everybody has their own best interests at heart. And that's not judgmental. That's not saying it's right or wrong. It's simply the way it is. You need to step, if you haven't already, you need to step up and be the leader in your own life. You have to lead your life. And this is true, even our parents, as wonderful as they are, as amazing beings as they are, to have brought us into this life, to have brought us into this world, selflessly looked after us, sacrificed so much stuff, probably more than we will ever know. To have done all of that out of love for us, everything they do, they're still actually doing it from their best interests, not necessarily not our best interests. Very often those interests will coincide, but not always. And that can be where we get all manner of situations and issues that arise and can even plague us much further down the line of life. But that's a whole separate conversation. The point is, we are all leaders of our own lives. Because if we're not leading our life, who is leading it, right? So at whatever level, be it the CEO of the multi-billion-dollar multinational global conglomerate, or be it the leader of one's own life, wherever in that level you are a leader. And see, here's the thing. Throughout the rest of this episode, I'm going to be talking about the position of somebody who is leading a small team at work, because we've got to pick something, right? And that was where the original kernel of the idea came from, so we're going to stick with that one. As I'm doing that, remember, all these things we're talking about apply across all levels of leadership, wherever you happen to be. No matter what level of leadership you are at, these will apply, in whole or in part. So, what I would suggest is sit back, relax, maybe get a pen and paper to take some notes, maybe listen to this a couple of times to really get the key points in this. And above all, get curious. Get really curious about how you can maximize your use of these things. How can you apply each of these things in your own life, as a leader in your life, whether it's a leader of your life, a leader of your family, a leader of your community group, a leader at work, a leader of a multi-billion-dollar company, whatever it is. How can you use these things? And of course, they don't just work for leadership, right? Interesting. So, looking at a leader of a small company, a small team at a company, the biggest problems they usually face are around confidence. It's kind of lacking confidence in themselves and their abilities. And when we lack that confidence, that's what causes us to be fearful that we've done something wrong. We're always thinking, oh God, did I get that right? Oh, did I make the right decision there? Did I lead the team correctly there? Did I do the meeting properly? When I conducted the review, did I conduct myself properly in that review? Did I give them a fair... We're always thinking, have I done something wrong? What have I got wrong this time? What did I do wrong? And also, that lack of confidence kind of causes us to really worry about what other people are going to be saying about us. Worrying about what other people are going to say about our ability as a leader, about us as a person, about the decisions that we make. Will they blame us for outcomes? All of these things. And these can be really, really nasty nagging doubts that really, really cripple you as a leader, potentially. And I would contend that all of these stem from lacking in confidence in a particular area. So that's what we're going to look at. Now, when we talk about confidence, there are three types of confidence. Three types of confidence. And we've looked at this in a lot more detail in a previous episode. You might want to catch up, have a look around, find the older episode where we talk about the three types of confidence. I go into a lot more detail on that. I'm going to cover it briefly here, just a brief recap to bring us all together on the topic. But we've got three types of confidence. We've got skill confidence, we've got self-confidence, and we've got emotional confidence. Now, just as a refresher, if you can't quite remember what each of these are, skill confidence is confidence. It's the actual ability to do something. It's a skill to do something. And skill confidence kind of passes through four levels. We start off with unconscious incompetence, where we don't even know that we don't know how to do the thing. Driving, for example, when we're like a young kid, we don't even know that we don't know how to drive. We just assume it's just sitting there and waggling the wheel backwards and forwards and maybe waggling the gear stick from time to time. We don't even know that we don't know how to drive. Then, as you learn a bit more about the thing, you become consciously incompetent, where we know we don't know how to do the thing. We realise, oh, I don't know how to drive. For example, it's funny how so many analogies come down to cars, isn't it? It's weird. Anyway, we're sticking with the driving one. We realise that we don't know how to drive. We are now consciously incompetent. We've gone from not knowing that we don't know how to do something to knowing that we don't know how to do something. And that will be the point with driving at which you'd get driving lessons. You start taking your driving lessons. And after a while, you'll reach the stage of conscious confidence, conscious competence, where you know how to do it, but you have to think about it. Yeah? You've got to think, okay, I'm getting ready to start, so I press down on the clutch, select the gear. Of course, this doesn't apply if you're using an automatic car, but there are still plenty of other areas, so go with it. Press the clutch down, engage the gear, push down on the accelerator slightly as I bring us up to biting point. You know all these bits, yeah? And you've got to kind of think them through as you're doing it. That's when you're at the conscious competence. You know how to do it, but you kind of got to think about it. How many of you can type, but you've got very much the hunt and peck approach? You know, the sort of look, that key, and you're looking at the keyboard, yeah? Perhaps even with your tongue stuck out, you know, thinking, oh, don't, yeah. It's not just me, is it, right? I hope so. So you're consciously competent about typing, but you've still got to think about where the keys are. You've still got to think about which one, where to find them. And so it is with driving. You can do it, but you have to think about it. You've got to remind yourself, oh, it's mirror, signal, manoeuvre, all of these sorts of things. Then, after a while, the more you practice, you reach the stage of unconscious competence. This is where you know how to do it, and you can do it without even thinking about it. With driving, you can get in the car, drive off. You don't even have to think about what you're doing. You just do it. I mentioned typing on the keyboard. When you're touch typing, you know, you can type away without looking at the keys. There's unconscious competence there because your fingers know where the keys are. Okay, your fingers don't actually know, but you know what I mean. You've got unconscious competence. You can do it without even thinking about it. So you're not thinking about where each key is to press. You're just typing. You're thinking about the sentences that you're creating. You're thinking about the structure of the report you're creating. So you've got unconscious competence. So those are our 4 levels of skill confidence. We go from not even knowing how to do something, knowing we don't know how to do it, knowing how to do it but having to concentrate on it, knowing how to do it without even thinking about it. And as you continue practicing, that's when you then move into mastery. You've mastered the art of whatever it is that you're doing. So that's skill confidence. Self-confidence I would define as